Good evening. Oh my gosh, I almost had to cough right away. That was the worst how I swallowed. Good evening. Welcome to Living Hope Online. We're excited to have you guys here tonight. I'll try not to cough overtly into a microphone. Nobody wants that, I would imagine. Excited to have you here. I'm going to try to do this part fast. I feel like sometimes I take too long on this part. If you're new with us, what we do with Living Hope Online, we actually are hoping to have a back and forth conversation. What we don't want to do, which you're welcome to do, I guess, but what we would prefer to not have happen is just to be like a show you watch. Because there's lots of stuff you could watch, and quite frankly, if you're picking us over other things that you're just watching, then you probably need to evaluate what you're just generally watching. But what we want you to do is actually be involved in the conversation. Maybe that's just me. You can watch these two all day long. I'm only so exciting to watch, would be my thought process. So we want you to be a part of this conversation. We actually want you to comment, and we will be reading your comments as we go, and actually just conversing back and forth with you. We want you to be highly involved in this process. If you've been with us before, then you know all that. And what we hope that you continue to find is that this is a place where you can say what you actually think. It's safe, and we're hopefully real about where we're all at and how we're doing and what we're talking about and thoughts and opinions and whatever else. And keep doing that. If you're somebody that's been with us before, we love to be able to see you guys and to just experience just really community with you in a slightly different way, right? And so keep doing that. That's what we're hoping for. Regardless of whether you're new or whether you've been with us before, one of the things we would ask for you to do is to like and share this, because that means that other people can experience the conversation, can join in the conversation. And what I always secretly really hope, it's not even a secret, I say it every time, so I guess it's not really that secretive. But what I always really hope in a non-secretive way is that you guys will actually then be willing to engage, that we will be willing to engage with people that aren't online necessarily commenting, but maybe have watched it, and that we work with, that are family members that aren't involved in church or aren't associated with Living Hope in any way, and that it can be a point of conversation that can start. And that hopefully it doesn't mean that you're making up a conversation, but that you can just comment on ours and with them and ask what they think and grow a little deeper with people that are outside of this little community that we've built or that happen to watch with us. So that's our hope for Living Hope Online. That's our hope for tonight. And our hope for tonight is just some good conversation, honestly. We've been talking the last couple times we've met about just the weight of the season. We talked a little bit about time and the feeling of that a couple weeks ago. And today we're going to kind of keep talking about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about expectations with this time of year and really just in general, right? I mean, but especially I feel like there's a lot of that comes with expectations around holiday seasons, Christmas and such. We tend to expect a lot. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to let these two introduce themselves, and we will get started with the conversation. Well, we're getting ready to introduce ourselves. Our first question, if you want to start typing answers and responses, have you ever expected to get a really great present just to be let down? It's a very Christmassy question. It's a really upbeat Christmassy question.
Is it just specifically Christmas present?
No.
Or
I'm okay with
all?
any kind of present. Have you ever expected to get any kind of present at any time of year and just been let down? And then I'd be curious to know what the present was that you expected. And this isn't what I was originally thinking, but I'd be curious to know what you got instead, too. Because, and if it implicates you in some way of like disliking someone's present that they gave you, you don't have to say. But I would be very curious to know. So to my left, we have.
I'm Carrie.
And to my right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan.
And I'm Justin. We're going to actually start answering this question to give you time to start typing your answers in, and it also makes up for a little bit of lag in the video that we have. So what about you guys? Have you guys ever expected a really great gift, really great present, just to be let down?
Okay. This is going to sound really dumb, and I don't care. I had asked for Christmas one year, season 5 of The West Wing, because I already had 1 through 4. And I did not get it, Instead, I got season 7,
Oh,
which
Yeah.
is one of the worst seasons. I mean, 5. Let's say the quality of the entire show went down, started to go down at season 5. But 7 was like the worst. Was the worst season, and that's the one I got, and I was let down. And I still, to this day, do not have 5 and 6.
and 7 just sits there on
7
like
just
a
sits there, and
TV stand. And
truth
you're-
of the matter is, I'm probably not gonna watch it anyway, because
So you didn't just watch it and see what you missed in the 2 seasons.
No,
that went through?
I'd already seen the entire show.
Oh,
This
I
was
see.
for keeps
Gotcha.
Oh, I see.
and to rewatch. But then they put it on Netflix, and I started watching it on Netflix, and I realized that I got through part of season 4 and would immediately go back to season 1 anyway. So 5, 6, and 7,
Turns out you didn't want it anyway.
I didn't want them.
I thought you were going to say you got season like 4 again. I was like, well, that
See,
would be a
That's why
letdown. I
presidents
know.
should have a 4-year term. Right?
It was. I mean,
The West
once
Wing, right?
Sorkin was like, I'm done after 4 years, and he left, and the show went downhill. So I mean, that was my letdown. But turned all out pretty good. But anyway.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
really funny. So I wasn't thinking of a Christmas present or anything like that. I did have an expectation, though, to get a new job. This was a few years ago. And my boss had talked to me, and he's like, there's this opportunity, and you just think about it, talk to your husband about it, and just let me know. Well, so I had talked to him, and I kind of let her know, and then nothing happened, and then they started talking about, oh, well, we need to, announce this, and we need to, find some people that would be interested in this job. And I'm like, wait, what happened?
Wait, yeah, wait a
And
second.
she didn't want to tell. Yeah, I think she was reluctant to let me know that while she wanted me to be in that job, her boss had other
Yeah.
ideas. So it was that avoidance kind of.
Sure.
It's like, I don't want to talk about that.
I've actually been there myself. If you're
It's no
just joining
fun.
us, I see some people have jumped on. If you're just joining us, we're talking about if you've ever expected to get a present or a gift or in this case, a job, and then you ended up being let down. I said I would be really curious to know what the present was that you wanted and what you got instead. And you don't have to share that, but you can. I was trying to think. I always write these questions and I don't think of the answers ahead of time, and I don't know why I do that. But I don't know of one. I'm not a big present person myself, and so I don't know that there's ever been a time that I can recall where I really wanted a present and got something different. I do know that the first year we were married, for our anniversary, I bought tickets for a musical to give to Melissa, and I was like, we weren't making much money, whatever, and I was like, oh, this will be really great. And I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to not really say anything about it being like our anniversary, right? Or maybe it was our birthday. I can't remember what it was. But whatever this event was, I was like, I'm not going to say anything. And then I'll put it at the behind the faucet of the bathroom sink. So when she goes in, she'll find the tickets, right? And she was apparently very dehydrated or something. I don't know. She did not go to the bathroom for so long, and it's after work, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, you gotta go. Go to the bathroom at some point and find this. And she clearly, and those of you that know Melissa, in a very nice Melissa-y way, she was clearly frustrated by the situation of me not saying anything, whatever else.
Acknowledging an event.
Yes. And it was we were closing in on we were going to go to bed. It had gone this whole, and I'm like, so hey, and I was like, I should have pulled the cord on that one a lot earlier. But and we laugh about that still to this day. Laugh about it. We talk
Great
about it.
story.
It comes up. But that was a time I think
I
she was
think-
initially disappointed.
I think the first thing is, if I can speak.
I would
very
love to hear your
flat here,
take. We've got nothing but sometime.
I would consider not, or in the future, possibly not expecting a gift presentation around someone's bodily functions. 'Cause
Well,
that
you
was
know,
a disappointment on you because she did not go to the bathroom.
That's
like
true.
You thought
That
she
was a
Both of you were
disappointment.
disappointed
That was a
in in
disappointment
that
for me.
event.
Or I could have really pushed water.
You could have.
Man, you know what we should do? We should go for a long walk or jog. I could have done something
Yeah, you
like that.
could have done that.
So that's ours. I saw Sabrina said she can't think of anything in particular that she wanted or didn't get. So she's really blessed. Her expectations are really low. It's funny. We were talking about expectations being low
Okay.
before.
I also, there was another situation, again around DVDs. Apparently that's
Interesting,
life.
yeah.
I know, right? I asked for Lord of the Rings trilogy box set, and I got it. But I wanted the extended edition.
Oh,
my
gosh.
gosh.
So my grandmother got it for me for Christmas, and I said, Grammy, do you
Oh,
mind if
grandmas
I...
don't know about extended
She
editions.
doesn't. And so I said, do you
Oh.
mind if I take this back and get the other set? She goes, oh, go ahead. She wasn't upset about it or anything. She goes, I didn't know what to get you. You said Lord
she-
of the Rings. I got you Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Exactly.
didn't
She wants
care.
you to be happy, and
Yeah.
there's all those specifics. That's why I'm always reluctant to get kind of technology things for my husband, because I know that he knows all the specifics that he wants,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get the wrong version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
It's
sure
a
I'm gonna do that.
dangerous.
It's
Yeah, it's always a
very- yeah.
dangerous thing to do.
That's why cash is always a good gift.
Next time I should just give Melissa a bunch of
Just
cash.
give cash.
Hey,
So did you guys get to go to the show?
yeah. It wasn't like that
Oh,
night.
it's like-
No, it wasn't that
Oh.
night. And I was like,
I was like,
hey,
wait a minute,
you know
you
what?
missed
You
the
missed it.
show.
You should have gone to the bathroom. We could have gone
You
to this thing.
missed the show because
on
you
you,
didn't take
Melissa.
me to the bathroom.
when you started it and said with the sink behind the faucet and everything like that, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it
was
got all
like a
wet and it
ruin.
melted,
I
and it was ruined. That's where I was going,
No, it
honestly.
wasn't any of that. It
We all
was
went
just
to
that.
fatalism.
I know. It actually turned out better than what you all thought it would.
It
True.
did.
So
Heather said,
Oh,
I'm jumping in.
yeah.
Heather said one time my sister and I were opening my Christmas presents, and then my mom took them from us because she mixed up. We got them back,
Oh,
but it was so shocking.
my
So,
gosh.
what, like she mixed up whose was whose?
Heather got Holly's
Gotcha.
and Holly got Heather's.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah. See, my grandmother did that one year too. She did it to where each person had a number, or each person had their own wrapping paper, but we didn't know which one was ours because she got tired of us trying to figure out what our gift was
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
Christmas. So she did that and then forgot who was who. She forgot whose was whose.
Yeah, that's hard.
And so she goes, okay, you open this one, and then I'll know who that one goes to. There's a whole lot of people opening up other people's gifts that night. But
Oh.
that was actually
That is
kinda
actually
fun
kind of a
too.
fun tradition itself.
That was actually kind of fun too.
Jenny said that she actually likes giving gifts more than even receiving them,
Yeah.
because she's a better person than I am. And no, some people are that way,
It's
but
super
that
fun.
she's had expectations about the person's reaction
Oh yes.
when she's given a gift and has been let down.
Oh yeah.
That's my
That's
worst
a really,
nightmare
really
as somebody
good
who doesn't
example.
get really excited about gifts. Is people give them to me and then I'm like, I don't know how to have a
Oh.
good big reaction. It either comes across as completely fake, I feel like, or
not big enough.
not big enough, or it's too big. I don't know. The
So
wow,
have you-
thank you so much. I don't
So
know.
have you gotten a gift that was very thoughtful and you were like, and you did have a good reaction, or are you just kind of a
No,
I don't need
I'm bad at
stuff?
reactions across the board.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the
okay.
worst. Yeah, it's the worst for me. It's
Do you
actually it's kind of
also
my
hate
nightmare.
Surprises? Do you also hate surprises?
I just feel like people will really be let down if they try to surprise me.
Huh.
That's what it is.
Because
they're
that's
gonna
me
be
too.
they're gonna be really let down.
I'm the one that likes spoiler alert or spoilers. So
So this time of year, right? We're full of expectations of any number of things, whether it's expectations of gifts, obviously, which we clearly found out really quickly, can be a mess, or expectations even of I thought about relationships, right? That's a big one we have expectations of around Christmas and holidays. And if we look back to Luke 2, right? If we're going to go and see how Jesus fits into all of this, which we're going to. Spoiler, we're going to. This is the time, right? This is the time of year Jesus is born. This is what we're all celebrating and expecting. And this whole group, this whole nation of people, right? This whole nationality of people, the Jewish people have been waiting for generations and generations and generations, expecting a very specific thing, right? They're expecting somebody to come and free them from oppression and whatever else and restore things to how it should be and all of the good stuff, right? Because if you're really oppressed and whatever else, that's what seems like salvation would come like. And then you've got this, so that's a huge group of people. They celebrate all these festivals, they celebrate all these things to expect what the Savior that's coming. And then you have this kind of subgroup who also were still the Jewish people, right? But that probably had lived a life in such a way that they really didn't expect anything to happen in their lifetime, right? Like it was more of a, we do this, I know that this exists, this thought process, we celebrate or we do these certain things because we say we're expecting, but I don't actually expect anything good to come, any salvation to arrive.
It's more of a tradition.
Yes, more of a
It's going
tradition
through
than
the
a real
motions.
belief or a real expectation. So both of these groups are existing, and then Jesus is born. And I feel like potentially both of those groups, but for sure one of those groups, is kind of let down by what they get. Because they kind of get like a poor family's baby. And instead of like a savior
We're
that's going to free
expecting
them.
regal
A
and,
king
and- yeah.
who would come in and
Yeah.
be a
Change
warrior,
things for
a
them.
mighty
Yeah,
warrior, and
right away.
and
And
save
instead
them
they
from the
get
Romans.
a poor family's baby.
Little
And that's
carpenter's son.
it's hard to fake that. I don't know how I would have faked that in there. Oh, baby, like it's so good.
All lives are precious, Justin.
They are. I never said that wasn't the case, but
That's why the wise men were wise. They saw his potential.
they did.
Oh,
They
that's
did.
good.
Okay, so here's my question. That's like that's a real rough synopsis of the Christmas story, right? But
Everyone was let down.
yeah, everybody was really
No.
expecting something. It was a huge letdown to a lot of people.
The shepherds were excited.
Well, that's a
Oh,
good
I
point.
get
We'll get there. We'll get there, right? So here's my question. Like, how do you react? And we've kind of talked about that, but like a little bit. Well, I guess we didn't necessarily. But how do we really react when we're let down by an expectation? Could be the gifts you got, right? Could be West Wing. West Wing? Is that what it was?
West Wing, yeah.
It's only apparently it's only half listening to your story. West Wing, season 7. I know what it was, and you wanted season 5. I
wanted
know your
5.
story.
He was listening.
Yeah. Or it could be a job, or it could be, again, something with your family and a relationship. How do we react when we expect one thing and we get let down? I'd be really curious to hear how you guys react. What's your knee-jerk reaction when your expectations are not met? You get some seconds to think about it and type. You guys get 0 seconds.
0
Well,
seconds. Well, to go back real quick,
Yeah, no,
Sabrina
go for it.
shared something really great, and I want to share it because it might help a little bit. She
Yep.
said, my dad always, where'd it go? My dad always hid my gifts from me and would be like, hey, go mop the floor, or hey, go get the vacuum. And her gift would be, she said, my gift would be shoved into that closet. Like my CD player was shoved into the closet.
Fun
She
dad.
says, where'd it go? So I was always more excited to see where he hid the stuff, but she thinks that it was because he didn't know how to wrap the gift, so he just hid it instead of wrapping it.
Still
But
sounds
she
fun.
liked the idea of where,
Yeah.
okay, where did he hide it this time?
Yeah.
That became
The
sort of
experience.
The experience
it.
was the
Yep.
thing for her, so I like that.
No, it is good.
Jenny says, I get anxious thinking something is wrong with me. I cry and a lot of crying. Because,
Yeah, interesting.
Like, am I supposed, I don't know, I'm maybe reading into this, but is it like,
Maybe I did something wrong and didn't communicate what I wanted effectively, and they don't really know me, and I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. So the question again was,
How do you
we
react? Yeah, what's
when
your first
our-
reaction when your expectations aren't met?
See, it's so funny. I think I always do. I feel awkward. Like, okay, I need to.
Yeah.
I need to. They did this for me. They bought this for me. It was a nice gift, nice thought. How do I let them know that I appreciate that they did this? And so that's sort of like, I just try to do that first. But yeah, it's that whole awkward. How big is too big?
Yeah.
What's the right thing to say or do?
Well, and honestly, I think the first reaction is disappointment, right?
Yeah.
Your expectations are not met, so you are disappointed, you are let down, and I think there you lose some of that, excitement or wonderment that you kids have at Christmas time. It's like, oh, okay, it's super excited, and you can be super excited too. But if you are continuously let down with your expectations, then that's just you're not going to have those. You're going to lower and lower and lower your expectations until you may not have any anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and then it's just kind of like, well, whatever.
Yeah. Which is a good point. And keep answering about how you react when your expectations aren't met. But Susan made a great point. at some point you almost lower your expectations to the point where expectations don't exist anymore. That's actually our next kind of question. So you can answer either. How do you react when your expectations aren't met? And have you ever really found yourself in a time, like really tough circumstances, experiences, whatever, where you find that you almost, in a slightly hopeless way, I guess, don't have expectations anymore? And again, you can feel free to share as much or as little as you want to with that. I know that can be kind of a vulnerable spot to put yourself in, but have you ever kind of found yourself in a spot where you weren't even having expectations of people or things or experiences anymore because you've been let down, you felt like so many times? And then kind of how does that feel? I know that when I initially, I think I almost get like a little bit mad if my expectations aren't met initially. Like somebody should have stepped up in whatever way to meet whatever I had expected to have happen in this situation.
I can see that, not so much on a gift-giving kind
Sure,
of thing.
sure,
because,
not
because
necessarily.
I'm not
Well,
gonna
we've already
have
established
that,
I'm
right?
not the gift
Well, that's true.
receiver. So, but this is more an experiential thing for me, I think.
Right. So for me, if I go back to the kind of a job thing,
Yeah.
not the same scenario, but when you're working or whatever, and you want to feel valued, you want to be appreciated, and so when that doesn't come, and when you're expecting that, oh hey, good job, or
Yeah.
just a simple thanks, and that doesn't
Yes.
come, yeah, that does make me mad.
Annoyed,
Yeah.
undervalued. I don't know.
I have been told that I am a little too verbose when my expectations are not met. And it's unprofessional, I've been told. No, but I think my knee-jerk reaction when I am I don't know if I go, you said mad.
Yeah.
And I never thought, I'm like, angry about, and I thought, well, anger might actually be my knee-jerk reaction when my expectations aren't met. But yeah, I don't really, I try to take a step back. I've learned, don't say the first thing that comes into your mind. Because that's never a good thing for me anyway.
Sure.
For you, it might be a great thing. For me, it's not.
I think it can also be demotivating, right? It's like, okay, I've
Yeah,
put myself
sure.
out here, and if you're not appreciating me, why am I working this hard? Why should I try to
Yes.
to meet you halfway or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. If my expectations get lowered because of not being met by someone else, my investment in that relationship, whether it be a professional relationship, a personal relationship, whatever.
Yeah.
What did I say? My
Investment.
investment in that completely drops to the bare minimum. I'm going to do just what I need to do to get by, and that's it. And that's not always healthy. But I think part of that is because you start to realize, okay, do I really need, going deep here, do I really need to be investing as much as I have been in it? Is it healthy for me to invest as much? Obviously, there are some relationships that you got to push through and invest in, regardless of what you're getting. I mean, it's
Sure.
not all relationships should not all be
Well,
transactional, but
No, and you have to assess too, and ask yourself, are your expectations unreasonable?
yes,
So because people do have
That's true.
expectations that are too high.
yeah,
Jenny said, she's kind of going through some of that now. That definitely has been angry, and actually, for her, it's somebody, and we've talked about this before on our panel at different times. It's someone that she loves not getting their expectations met, and that almost does it for us more sometimes, doesn't it, Jenny? I've given grace, but it's getting to the point where that's becoming very hard. Definitely understand that. And then Sabrina had said that she tries to give grace and laugh about it when it comes to gifts and relationships. She tries to be more transparent about her expectations because honesty is important in healthy relationships. And then again, if you're not expressing your expectations, like you said, like if you're not being clear about them, or if you're setting them too high or whatever else, that can definitely be.
It's like those first
tough.
few years of marriage when you expect your husband to be able to read your mind, and of course he's going to do this, and I don't have to say anything. Oh my gosh! But after 20 years, then you kind of realize you have to talk.
yes.
Yeah.
I
It's an important part of it.
I obviously don't have my own marriage stories, but I have my parents' marriage stories. And since I'm a pastor, I'm going to use them. And since my dad has used me as an object lesson as his child, turnabout's fair play. His expectation of my mom when they first got married was that she was going to be exactly like his mom.
Sure.
In the sense of my grandmother was a stay-at-home mom. Of course, she had to be with 9 kids. A stay-at-home mom. Dinner was on the table when Grandpa got home from work. All of these things, and he had that expectation of my mom, and the first year was rocky because of that. So then my mom said, "You know what? I need to do this. I need to meet halfway. I need to be, because in her life it was the other way around. Her dad was always the one cooking, cleaning, and dinner was on the table when my grandmother got home from work, because he worked earlier and she worked later, so he always had dinner on the table. So the gender roles expectations were completely not communicated.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And I know, I love it. So one night she decided, I'm going to do this. And so she had dinner on the table, ready to go when he was due home from work. And this is before cell phones, before microwaves. He did not come straight home. He went to his mom's house after work and ate a bite there and chatted and visited, and then came home. The food was ruined. So Mom says, that's the last time I'll ever do that for you. From now on, we will not talk about dinner until I see the whites of your eyes. And so that expectation got planted
It became very clear.
Line in the sand right there. But that was an expectation that hadn't necessarily been verbalized before, and that always fascinated me.
So when we start to find ourselves in that spot where our expectations maybe haven't been met, we have whatever reaction we have initially, but we kind of find ourselves in the spot that Susan brought up, where we almost lower our expectations, and almost find it too hurtful to have expectations moving forward. When we find ourselves in that spot, I don't know, I guess I haven't thought this through. I don't know that that's always a bad spot to be in. Maybe it is. I don't know where I stand on that. So keep track of that. I'm not 100% sure that's always a terrible spot to be in. But it seems like it wouldn't be great.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Having no expectations. Yeah, having like...
Well, I've heard before.
Depends about what, right?
It depends about
in
what
way.
I've, in my life, definitely operated under the assumption, the less you expect, the more you'll get. Because if you're not expecting very much, then whatever you get is going to be like, hey, that's pretty cool,
Sure.
And so, but that's not necessarily
But if that's like how you always live, you're like, what's that really feel like?
Yeah, that's not really.
So when we...
I think you get, I'm sorry.
Go.
I think you get to a certain point of apathy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You just...
If it gets that far, yeah.
Okay, so let's say we're in that spot, right? Because I'm sure there are people out there, maybe you're not watching right now, maybe you catch this later. Maybe you are experiencing this right now, not in every aspect of your life, but in a certain situation, right? Where you now are at the spot of either apathy or of, again, finding it almost too hurtful to continue to have expectations, right? It's like you're setting yourself up to be hurt by having expectations in some way. What do we do once we get to that point? How can we help ourselves? How can we help ourselves? I'm going to leave that real open-ended. I'd be interested to hear what some of you guys think. I think I'm interested to hear what you guys think. What do we do at that point? Do we talk to somebody? Do we try to fix that ourselves? Do we give up on the expectations in that specific area? What do we do? Because there are people that are going to maybe be watching this that would benefit to hear from what you guys have to say and hopefully what...
I think all of the above. I mean, I think some people shut down and just don't have those expectations anymore. I think some people seek out someone to talk to and vent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people get angry and maybe have a confrontation, and at the end of that, then, oh, hey, now we've had clear communication, and things can move forward and get better. So I think there are a variety of paths to take, and it really just depends on where you are in your mindset, right?
Yeah. Let's see. When you get to the point of apathy, Yeah, that shutting down part is the scary part, because I've often been told if you shut out all feeling, if you shut out the bad feeling, you're going to be shutting out the good feeling too. You're going to miss stuff. That's the fear of the shutting down, of getting to that apathetic moment of not expecting anything. And then if you get to that point where you're not where you have very low expectations, then what kind of life are you? What are you looking forward to?
You're not.
You're not.
Yeah.
And so then every day is just a day. And that's the part where if we're not there have been times when I've been like that and I've not been conscious of it until I've gotten to that point and I had to like pull myself out of it, or have help getting pulled out of it. But yeah, you can. Man, it's just a bad place to be.
Yeah.
Sabrina says that she finds herself having too high of expectations for her kids, and she finds herself having to apologize from time to time, and that her oldest kid her kids are great kids, and she hopes there's no trauma in the future. But I mean, at least what I see in there though is that she's willing to say she's sorry and apologize, and there are a lot of parents who might not be able to do that, and that's a really good thing to do. I think if your expectations have been too high and it's caused some problems in your relationship, just say I'm sorry.
It's a mark of
Admit it.
knowing that you're doing it potentially right, because you're actually reflecting on what you've done, right?
Exactly.
That's when you think you're always 100% right all the time. That's when, especially with kids and whatever else, turns out kids are not easy to raise.
Yeah, but if you completely shut down, if you get to that point of apathy, not only are you not feeling the disappointment, but you're also not feeling enjoyment.
Yeah. Something you said, and I hadn't thought about this until you said it, Carrie. I think what's interesting too is the idea of being able to talk to somebody or not realizing that you're at that spot yet. Part of what can help with that too is when things are going relatively well, and just throughout your life, right? Is making sure that you're a part of some sort of community that, like, not in like a superficial way. And we're all parts of communities, but a community of people that really know you and that you're really willing to be honest with and open with. Because I think what you gain from that is that when you start to slip into one of those spots that's maybe too rough, or you aren't having expectations of life in general around you, that they know you well enough to be able to either A, point that out, and B, ask how you're doing and help you through it, right?
Amen to that.
Yeah, so when we've kind of isolated ourselves, that can be not great.
No,
Not great as well.
I fully applaud that, because it is critical to have a support network. As a military spouse, and there are other scenarios when you're like this, but I mean, you get thrown into the situations where you don't know anybody. Your spouse might be headed out, and so you don't even have the person that you communicate with the most there to vent. And so it's crucial to have a support network. It's important to get out there and have small groups of some kind, because otherwise you go a little nuts.
Well, as we get ready to close, because as always, we could keep talking about this. I had more stuff, and it's getting late. It's how it goes every time. So here's what I'd be curious to know from the two of you. I'd be curious to know it from all of you as well. Because knowing some of you guys that are here and involved in the conversation, I think that you have plenty of great to offer in this area. So we talked briefly about Jesus and the expectations of Jesus and everything else. Well, at this time of year, and when our expectations are left unmet, or our expectations have allowed us to, our unmet expectations have allowed us to end up in a spot where we're hopeless or apathetic or whatever else. What word would you guys give here as we kind of close out on what Jesus has to say about that, or how Jesus, maybe in your own experience, has helped you realize that there is more to still expect?
I think that Christmas is a great thing, and Advent in itself is about expecting, right? It's expectation and it's preparation for Christmas and the birth of Jesus. And the reason, and not just the birth of Jesus, okay, there's a baby and all this, but the meaning behind that, this is the promise. This is the promised land, but this is the hope of heaven. And so with that, we're expecting, I don't know if it's a new start or it's it's that promise of salvation. It's that promise of hope. And so we get to look at that and hopefully, no pun intended, really, that we can cling to something else, that maybe we can have a little bit of perspective about eternal life and not get so bogged down with the material world and be sad about the things that we didn't get when we expected them. All things come to those who wait, I suppose. And sometimes we have to wait a really, really long time.
Sometimes a really, really long time, yeah. I think you said it really well there. You were talking about Advent. I heard on a podcast today from England, they were talking about their Advent calendars and how they hate that there's not a chocolate on Christmas Day, but it's for every day up to that. It's not Advent. Your Advent calendar ends then. But yeah, that's that expectation leading to Christmas. And sometimes your expectations don't necessarily have to be big to be. I mean, God told me that, has taught me in my life that even the smallest things, the expectation of the smallest things can be a great thing to hope for. So, I mean, I think sometimes our expectations are too big just for the fact of wanting big things to happen in our lives. But sometimes just the expecting something small tomorrow or later today or even next week, expecting, anything can be a joy. It doesn't have to be the big things. It can be something small.
And sometimes the small things
are better.
Are truly, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys both hit a lot of stuff on the head there. There's some great comments, guys, in the chat section. Thank you so much for that. Keep that going. I appreciate that. You guys have obviously so much wisdom to offer us yourselves. Well, as we get ready to close out, I think one of the things, as I was just getting ready for this, that I kept, and it's the first time I really thought about it this way, but Jesus obviously came for everybody, right? Came for all of us, and those that were expecting Jesus in the way that Jesus came, and those that were not expecting Jesus or had not found it worthwhile to expect anymore. He came either way. But I think what's interesting is this year when I was reading through some of this is thinking, I feel like Christmas has almost been hijacked a little bit by the people that have the great expectations of Jesus at times when...
This is a whole other half an hour conversation.
I know, we could keep going. We could keep going for a long time. When I think maybe originally who was most impacted immediately by Jesus coming were the people that maybe had run out of expectations, right? You mentioned it earlier.
The
Shepherds, people that were around, poor family, people that weren't, they were in the margins. And even as Jesus progressed throughout his life, that didn't necessarily change, right? It was still those people who had found it not worthwhile to expect or hope anymore that were most impacted.
And if you think about it, Jesus may not have come in the way they expected.
Yes.
And their expectations may have been, you know where I'm going, don't you? Their expectations may have been dashed, but he exceeded expectations.
In a way that they couldn't have imagined.
In a way they could not have imagined.
But there are many, many Jews out there that are still waiting for the first coming of the Messiah.
Yeah.
At what point can we look at ourselves and say, okay, my expectations were dashed here, but maybe the way it went is better? Shouldn't we be able to ask ourselves that every day, every time?
Well, hindsight is 20/20, right?
That's
And I love Easter too because they talk about the connection between the Passover lamb and the and if you haven't watched The Shepherd, it talks about that and the spotless lamb. You haven't seen it yet
haven't
either.
seen it.
No,
Oh, my
gosh,
word.
Carrie. But that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, here's my closing remark as we go. If you're probably one of a handful of people here, right, that are involved in this video at this point. You're probably either somebody that has some kind of relationship with God. I'm sure that's a decent number of us. But if you're somebody who is not in that position, or has been in that position, and you're in that position, but you still find yourself lacking expectation or hope, maybe we interchange those a little bit. I would encourage you, because this season for some people, just because of circumstances, can be a really rough one for hope and just how we feel in general. And I get that, and that's okay. But just understand that maybe the whole purpose and aura around Christmas maybe has a lot more to do with you when you're at your hopeless time than it does you when everything's going well, and what that might mean. And so if you don't have any kind of relationship with God, I'd encourage you to, let us know. Find somebody who you know does, and ask about why that might be a hopeful thing. And then if you are one of those people that has a relationship with God and you're thinking, yeah, I've had rough times, I've had good times, and I trust in God and all of that, I'd remind you that we're called, right, to do the things that Jesus did. And one of the things that Jesus did was come and find the people that had lost hope and lost reason to expect and lost reason to believe in any number of things anymore. And he, through relationship, gave them that hope back. And we actually have that very same ability. And that requires, though, your time and your effort and your willingness to go see and interact with the people that need that the most. And we're quick to think people that are down and out, and that's not untrue. But man, maybe this next couple weeks you really focus on people that aren't even the down and out kind of people that we usually think of as far as maybe poor, homeless, whatever, but instead people that maybe just need mended relationship, maybe even mended relationship with you, which is not easy, and it's hard, and it's awkward, and yet that might be a big difference maker. And I just felt like that was worthwhile to say tonight. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for great comments. You guys are killing it every week we do this. We love it. We love being able to hang out with you every other week. We will be back. We're taking the break off through Christmas and such. We'll be back in January. Make sure to let you guys know when we're coming back. Thank you. Have a good night, and we will see you next time.
Good night. Be well.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.